Starting from a simple Reddit post and a demo, D-Cell Games have managed to capture the internet's attention with their first project, Unbeatable, a rhythm adventure game where music is illegal and you do crimes. I caught wind of this game on Twitter and immediately fell in love with the visuals and was blown away by the playable demo. Fortunately, the entire crew at D-Cell Games agreed to join and talk about Unbeatable, as well as their journey through Kickstarter that raised almost 500% of its goal. So, today I have with me D-Cell Games. I've got the full crew with me from D-Cell Games. They are the developers releasing Unbeatable, which is a super cool, amazing-looking new rhythm adventure game that comes out in 2023. And the first thing I want to talk to you guys about is, why does the music slap so hard? It's so incredibly good. I listened to the soundtrack probably 4 or 5 times, and it sounds like someone slapped together Fulu Cooley, Scott Pilgrim, and Prep the Rabbit all together. What happened?
I mean, that's all the TJ.
Our amazing composers happened.
Yes.
Okay, to clarify, we just stumbled on a bunch of cool things, cool sounds, because the game was going in a certain direction, and we were trying to match that direction the game was going into, and so we stumbled into this early 2000s kind of Y2K kind of rock, nostalgia kind of feel. But initially it wasn't like that, but that's kind of just how it went.
Initially it wasn't, and also the game itself was not very Y2K at all. The big thing was we were developing the game and we were trying to figure out what the game was and what the game would sound like. And then TJ made a bunch of really good music and it sounded a very specific way, and then we retooled the rest of the game, and then I guess that also had a secondary influence back on the music, like a feedback loop of Y2K energy.
And it is quite a great energy. I probably should start us off with first, do you guys want to introduce yourselves so the listeners know who you are?
So, hey, I'm Andrew. I am one of the directors on the game, and I do all of the art direction, I do the animation, I do the background modeling, and I do some of the programming, and I did story concepts, broad strokes, stuff like that.
I'm RJ. I am the other director on the project. I handle all the narrative design. I'm the music direction. I do some of the storyboarding for big set pieces, and I kind of hammer out Andrew's ideas.
I'm Jeffrey. I'm Unbeatable's producer. That means a lot of different hats, helping maintain the general actual game production, also managing social media, also doing beat map level design. So I designed the game's levels, all 5 difficulties of them, and then I've done a lot of extra little things just here and there, just depending on whatever or not Andrew wants to do it or not. Notably coloring for art.
I am Rachel. I am most known as the lead vocalist for the songs on the soundtrack, but I'm also a co-producer for D-Cell, and I help with PR and community management and stuff too.
Hey, I'm TJ. I'm one of the composers for the game, and I delve into the live recording aspect of it, so all the guitars, drums, bass, and all that. That's what my focus is on. And then once I'm done with that, I'll send it off to Vasily, who is our other composer on the game, and he a lot of the electronic side of things, and he also does all the mixing and the mastering, because I'm definitely not a person that does mixing, so he fixes all my bad mixing mistakes.
Yeah, Vass is incredible.
And my name is Mirai Arsenault. I am the main programmer on the game, so I develop a lot of the game systems, some development tools as well. A little bit of audio programming. I'm sort of learning how to do that. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't have as as broad of a role, I guess, as the others, but it's more focused.
You have a very crucial
But
role.
it's
Still
focused
important,
because I came on the team to sort of take away a few a bit of Andrew's workload.
Take away the hats that were falling off of my head.
Yes.
You're like one of those Team Fortress 2 circa like 2010. Like any one of the people you'd be fighting against would look like that.
Yes.
Yeah,
That was
I
Andrew.
came on to help lighten Andrew's workload on the programming side, so he could focus on
the arts and all of the other things.
Yeah. You're still wearing a lot of hats, to be fair, but you have one less now.
I have one less.
So let's talk straight about the Kickstarter. You guys blasted through Kickstarter, beating their goal in under 15 hours with 486% of your target in funding. Were you guys prepared to be that successful with your campaign?
No!
No.
Definitely not.
Not at all.
That's not a thing that happens, especially not anymore.
Yeah. So we had a $55,000 goal, and I think most of the people on the team were expecting to hit that goal like middle to end area of the Kickstarter campaign. Certainly not in the first 15 hours.
Yeah, I expected like the end to be like waiting for it to hit it.
Yeah, it was like me and Jeff were like up when it crossed like the threshold of being funded, because it was like early in the morning, and the rest of the team just woke up to the game being funded.
By the time they woke up, like the game was almost double funded, I think, too, wasn't it? So, or at least like halfway
that, yeah.
there. Yeah, something like the halfway there. So
I woke up and it was 65K. After I went to
that's
bed.
like that's like 120%. Pretty good.
Yeah, and
Pretty
that's really
nice.
impressive too.
Definitely had to check and make sure I still wasn't dreaming.
We definitely went through a cycle of just like constantly. I think I spent like 5 hours total just staring at the number going up because I was like, I couldn't do anything else. I was just I had a brain like break.
Seriously, I think everybody like before the Kickstarter, like immediately before we launched the Kickstarter, everybody was sitting around and was like, hey, you know what, we'll get this Kickstarter up and then we'll all just take a break, we'll relax, we'll check back in a day. And then we stuck around another 6 hours hitting refresh on the tab instead of doing other things.
Yeah, I don't think I took a break till like, what was it, 4 a.m. in the night, and I just like was like, screw it, like I can't look at this number, and I just like ran out into the park that late in the night, just like unable to process anything that was happening.
Yeah,
We were just totally delirious.
Yeah, when I went to bed that night, I like told my parents about it, and was like, "Oh yeah, we're at $20,000." And I woke up the next morning, and I told my mom like, "Hey, we have like $55,000 now." I was like, this thing you have is like big.
The thing is, like directly, like the day that we were supposed to launch the Kickstarter, there were so many issues that like cropped up.
Oh gosh.
Like my power went out.
Oh no!
Right. Yes, that happened.
That was so stressful.
Well,
I was like,
demo...
I'm gonna need a therapist after this.
Right, the demo that we were gonna put up ended up just not happening. Like the version of the demo we were going to put up was a lot smaller, and then it just ended up not happening because of the power going out. We're like, we'll get this up in a few hours, and then after the reaction to everything, we cleaned it up a lot more, and that's the whole white label thing that we launched at the end of the month.
Do you guys know what happened to make you guys explode so quickly?
I mean, honestly, there's a lot of things that just kind of accidentally fell into place. I tried to analyze it. There's some right place, right time stuff.
Right. We did a lot of like promotional stuff beforehand because the game's been in development for quite a while. So we were able to like show at events beforehand to get feedback from people and kind of polish it based on that. And we had the small community beforehand that kind of helped boost it. So I think that contributed definitely.
We also got very, I guess you could call it luck, but a lot of our tweets directly before the Kickstarter got retweeted by a lot of people with industry connections, and it kind of disseminated through the entirety of the indie gaming space, like really rapidly.
Right. Yeah, there was the Kickstarter announcement trailer did really well.
Yeah. It was crazy. Like we had like articles written about our game before we had like any press kit or anything ready, really, which was kind of insane.
Like you could very much tell that we weren't expecting it to blow up that fast, because we had a lot of stuff that was just temp, because it was always like, oh, we'll take the time, we'll fix it up later, by the end of the campaign when people are looking at it, it'll be great. And it turns out everybody was looking at it in like the first 3 hours.
Oh man.
Yeah, I know by the time I found it, I had already found it a few days into funding, and I found it through Twitter via, was it Aggro Crab Games? They were like, hey, look at this thing. And I was like, ooh, what's this? And I was like, wow, this is actually really cool.
Shout out to Aggro Crab.
Yeah, they're
their
really
seal
great.
of quality.
Yeah. You did.
Was it them that changed their name to
Unbeatable Stan Count?
Yeah.
They did. Yes, they did.
It's so funny.
You guys had some really inventive backer rewards, including my favorite, which was the $10,000 we will never meet you in public ever.
The restraining order.
Yeah. How do you plan on avoiding someone for $10,000?
Just doing our damnedest to not talk to them.
Just stuttering, trying to figure out how to explain himself.
I mean, who was it? Me that came up? Who was the one who actually had the initial idea to do that?
That sounds like a you idea.
It sounds like a me idea.
It was definitely your idea.
It was definitely inspired by the Hideki Kamiya Platinum Games thing. Yeah,
get blocked on Twitter.
I'm not sure what that is.
So for the Wonderful 101, for the Wonderful 101 remastered Kickstarter that they did like a few months beforehand, or I guess was it 2020?
So basically, on the Wonderful 101 Kickstarter, they had a reward where Hideki Kamiya, CEO of Platinum Games, would block you on Twider.
It was like $300. That was not a cheap tier.
No, it was pretty pricey, and people did it.
It had a lot of people back in that one. You also mentioned it was pretty inspired by the those kind of tiers where they have you like fly over to meet the developers and stuff. That's was a pretty prevalent theme in early Kickstarter, especially like Mighty No. 9 and Bloodstained. Oh man. Yeah.
And so we thought it'd be funny to be like, what if we do the opposite of that?
The opposite of that. Especially during
never
COVID.
Talk to you.
You're like, maybe a good idea not to try to meet someone in the middle of a pandemic.
Well, I also thought it was funny because, like, what happens if you guys go to a convention and they show up? Like, how do you know it's them?
Oh, we're out. We run.
Yeah.
You just close the booth down.
We just close down the booth.
We scramble.
Yeah.
So there's been this weird resurgence of rhythm games in the last year, with Friday Night Funkin' taking over the internet for a while, Rhythm Doctor and Everhood, and now Unbeatable. What happened?
People realize rhythm games are good.
There's a lot of untapped potential, I think, that people just didn't look at for a while.
Yeah.
Rhythm games also became just a more immediately appealing to a casual audience, which I would attribute to all three of the games you mentioned. Like Everhood, Rhythm Doctor, and FNF, like, do very specific things that make it appealing to casual players.
Yeah. I think that the most important thing, I don't think rhythm games were ever quote unquote unpopular. I think it's more so that it was very popular in its tiny niche. And all of the rhythm games that were being made were kind of appealing to that niche, that group of people who really like playing Sound Voltex or whatever. And it wasn't until I think last year that people were putting friendly faces onto their rhythm games and trying to market it to people who maybe aren't only looking for hardcore EDM.
You mean playing Osu over and over again forever?
Yeah.
I mean, like, you look at FNF. I would honestly say that a huge part of why FNF got popular is because it has an original soundtrack. And that's something that we're not really used to seeing with a lot of rhythm games, which is funny because the first rhythm game, arguably the first rhythm game, is Parappa, and that's a game that is all original music.
Yeah.
And that's a very narratively driven game. That's a game that's like built on like telling a story with characters and has a lot of personality. But the popular idea of a rhythm game is pretty much codified from Go with DDR, which is
DDR Guitar Hero.
It's all licensed music.
Yeah.
It's all abstract. There's no real sense of like personality or character to the progression of it. It's just all the personality is the music. It's all based on the music they've licensed.
It's also very mechanical too for those older gen games. It's like they required more elaborate setups, like either full-on machines, like plastic peripherals and the stuff, right? Which hurt accessibility for these games tremendously.
And to be clear, like I love Junithm, and that is a game with a laser grid that you pass your hands through in order to like do things in 3-dimensional space. Like,
I've never heard that before.
Yeah, Waka similarly does something like that. It's pretty fire.
Like, I am definitely into that brand of like out there completely absurd super hardcore rhythm games, but also I feel like it's kind of limiting the audience because music is something I feel most people can enjoy, and yet for some reason all of these rhythm games are only catering to like a very specific crowd of people. And I feel like you could broaden that pretty easily just by making the game a little more approachable, make it a little friendlier, give it some appeal outside of just the mechanical complexity of it.
I know for me, when I think of rhythm games, I always think of Guitar Hero and Rock Band, things like that. Like there were a couple of games here and there that I remember seeing growing up or after the Guitar Hero fad had come, but it was never really super popular aside from like DDR for arcades only. At least here in like Florida, DDR was never super popular, but it was like, Guitar Hero, things like that. And then it dropped off. Guitar Hero and all the Hero Rock Band things just oversaturated the market, and then it just completely died out. And then it hasn't come back until recently.
Yeah.
You look at the saturation of the market with like plastic guitar games and things like Guitar Hero and Rock Band. And I think that's more of a failure of pushing out those things on a high like company level. But if you look at those actual games, like they never really died out in any sense. Like Rock Band 4 didn't hit the numbers that 1, 2, or even 3 did. But I mean, there's a lot of people who still play that game, and it keeps getting updates today.
Does it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's like new songs every week.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's the latest. It's basically like the latest version of Rock Band still. Sense.
I know that Rocksmith is still getting some update. Oh no, they just stopped doing updates for Rocksmith because they're releasing a new version of it.
I had no idea about that actually.
Yeah. I bought Rocksmith on a whim because I have a guitar I don't know how to play, and I was like, I'm gonna learn via video games. And I saw it and I was like, oh cool, it's a new version. Well, fuck me.
Oh, you're talking about 2014, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so no, you're definitely scared out of luck if you like got the base version, because like the actual version with the content songs and wink wink the modding capabilities is Rocksmith 2014 on systems. So
oh well, I'll be fine.
Yeah.
I'll live without it.
Hopefully, yeah. I mean, it's still an okay version of the game.
Yeah, I mean, I still can play guitar, so it's fine.
I think, you know what, that might be one of the big reasons why sort of the whole plastic guitar craze died off, and it was because there's only so much you can do with an update to your plastic guitar game to make people want to buy it, right?
Every new game was just more songs, but still a guitar.
Yep.
The one thing that I was upset they didn't take farther with Rock Band 4, they totally dropped it, was Rock Band 3 had full MIDI compatibility. And there was like even a way to hook up an actual guitar to it and do like the pro mode, and it was like this whole weird thing. Yeah. That stuff was nuts, but it was incredibly expensive. It was very like logistically difficult to set up and figure out. But for like the 1 or 2 people who set it up, they loved it. And it's the same kind of thing. Like they just dropped that because no one used it, but the functionality was there. It was built in, and I always get like a little sad when crazy ideas like that tend to fall by the wayside. Like Kinect functionality just being unceremoniously dropped completely from the Xbox. It's a little sad. It's a little sad.
It is. It is. So, how did development for Unbeatable start?
It started back in, I think, late 2017. I worked on a prototype on my own. I worked on a prototype with Jeff, and then we slapped something together. And I think around December 2017, we sent. I posted a tweet and made a post on like a subreddit, game development.
It was Game Dev Classifieds.
No, it was I Need a Team, wasn't it?
It was I Need a Team. It was I Need, yeah.
You also did Game Dev Classifieds.
The second resurgence of that same subreddit on this show.
So I sent out a tweet. I made a post on Reddit, and then that was how Jeff and I met everybody else.
Yeah.
Was through that.
Almost.
I think this is the first time an I Need a Team posting has ever led to anything.
I mean, again, to clarify, it was definitely cross-posted to Game Dev Classifieds because that's how I saw it.
Okay.
I don't know who did that of the two of you.
I'm not sure.
Andrew, I'm pretty sure
it's been a while. It might have been me. It might have been Jeff.
Andrew purely hosted the postings for both Reddit and Twitter. I recall as much. I think I wrote Andrew's tweet actually, and he posted it on his Twitter. But the Reddit post was handled entirely by him, and the cross posting.
Okay. And what are some of the things that inspired you to make Unbeatable for that initial concept of the game?
Okay, so it wasn't like any kind of grand idea or anything. I was a dumb kid, and I thought it would be fun to make a video game.
Sure.
I was the second dumb kid.
Yes.
I already made dumb games, and I wanted to make more.
Yeah, so we didn't come into this thinking, yes, we're going to make the total encapsulation of all of the anime we like watching. This was more so we want to do something and I think it would be fun, so let's just see if we can find anybody who would be willing to help us work on this thing. And then I think because RJ was one of those people, the game ended up ballooning out into becoming a perfect encapsulation of all of the anime that we watched.
I ended up pushing it okay, so I think I was the second person that you talked to, was it, or the second person who responded?
You were the second person that we talked to. I think you were like the seventh person who emailed us, okay. But there were like a lot of people.
I was gonna say it would be surprising if I was the second person who responded, because the second you say, "Hey, are you looking for music?" For a video game, the second you say that, you have blood in the water for all the sharks. Let me tell you, this is not the fault. I'm not blaming composers here, because I have been working as a video game composer for years in the industry, and I get it and I understand it. But there's much more of a composer pool than there is a pool of games willing to pay for people to make music.
Yes.
And so it is one of the most broadly saturated groups in the game space, and then there's no programmers. So every programmer can find a job in games, and no composers can find a job in games. So long story short, of course I applied because I was looking for work, and the post made it seem like it was a paid job, which it wasn't.
We're having this conversation, yeah.
I will never not litigate this. I'm always gonna I'm never.
I'm not asking you to mentor. It's just the way you phrase it every time is so.
In my defense, we when RJ got into a call with us, we said, "Oh, it's not going to be paid," and then RJ did not immediately leave. So I think this is partially on him.
That is partially on him. Yeah, I'll give him that.
RJ, it did end up being a paid job, so there you go. They didn't lie.
Eventually, I mean, at this point, Unbeatable has paid me more than any other job I've applied to for composing. So there you go. No, but what happened was we started getting to talking, and Andrew and Jeff were like, yeah, it's like a 6-song game. We're just going to like put it out for $5. And the idea was it was just going to be this very small anime-themed game. And I think the thing that started the big conversation was they just showed me character concepts for Beat. I was like, this character's great. Why aren't you doing more with this? Like, why just do this? Why not have it be a bigger thing? And they're like, I don't know. I never thought about that, was basically the answer. And that kind of like ended up spiraling out. And we, I like submitted some music that I worked on for this to try to like fit the vibe that the game had initially, which was you like wanted very Hatsune Miku.
Yeah,
like,
it was super like pop. Because I think the main character at that point was supposed to be an idol, and it was like some revenge story against your producer.
Interesting.
Yeah, like a reverse idol master.
Yeah,
but I think I'm trying to remember exactly when that changed. I think the big thing was when TJ came on. TJ does guitars.
Yes.
TJ does guitars a lot and loud and very well.
I do the drum and the playing.
You're much more live sound focused, which I think actually is a huge part of why the game ended up becoming the thing that it did. Because when we had those pieces of music in play, I think that it starts pushing you immediately mentally in a direction towards things like you mentioned Fooly Cooly and things of the like turn of the millennium generation of anime and stuff that does feature more heavy. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that kind of ended up folding the aesthetic in, as Andrew said. It was like a feedback loop of all those things together.
I feel like having those. Oh, go ahead.
Basically, I'll let you talk. But basically, I think the exact thought process I had was TJ sent his little demo thing that he made, and then I listened to it, and I went, wow, this is better than the game we're making.
You've said that multiple times, actually, through the course of development, that wow, your music is the best part of this game, and it's embarrassing. Actually, it was like a thing I think you actually said verbatim around the time we showed at MagFest 2019. That was like the first real push that we like had internally to kind of give an aesthetic recoat to the game and like kind of do a whole big new thing, because it was much simpler at MagFest 2019.
It's
and
also
also
the final one,
oddly more
like
complex.
Yeah. And MagFest 2019 is also when I met y'all for the first time.
Yeah. Actually,
I was
think that's the case
presenting like
for
my own game, like separately from them.
Yeah, I
and
think
we
it
sort
was
of-
in the booth across from us, right?
Yeah, we were like really close. And yeah, it's just like, hey, RJ was working with me on the game I was working on, and also on Unbeatable, so it was sort of natural to meet
And
up there.
also on a third game that was
I
at
was.
MagFest, so RJ was just running all over the
yes.
place.
That's right.
Yeah.
RJ was working on 3 different projects.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he wasn't so lucky because that third game was set on the other half, like up, like the other side of the showcase. So he was like
I got
constantly
a
darting back and
lot.
forth.
You were getting your steps in that day.
Oh
Yeah, for
boy,
sure.
I did get I got my steps in that weekend. It was the entire weekend. I was running back and forth.
So what are some of the unique difficulties that come along with making a rhythm game, whether it's coding or storyboarding or anything?
Everything is an issue when you're making a rhythm game.
Yeah. Obviously, timing is a big issue.
Yes, timing is a huge thing. But like on a code base, which Mirai did a really great job of redoing everything because my work was very roughshod and not good.
Thank you.
Mirai did a great job of redoing all of that. And the game runs really well now. Everything is
It's
super
incredible.
precisely timed. But that took a while to hash out. It was like 4 to 6 months of just working on that system to get everything feeling good.
Yeah, and that's only the latest iteration of like the rhythm system, the rhythm combat.
Yeah,
because we developed and also scrapped several versions of
yes,
essentially the game.
Yes,
To
because
get it right.
Because, and this is the second thing, visuals are really hard to nail down. Because when it comes to a rhythm game, right, unless you're making something like a Rhythm Doctor where the distraction is the entire point of the game, right, most rhythm games don't want to distract the player because they want the player to be able to enter that flow state where they don't really have to pay attention and they're just doing the motions to the beat and it feels really nice. The issue with that is that when you're making an attention-grabbing anime-themed action game, that tends to draw your attention away from that flow state. So trying to nail down how much visual complexity you can have, whether you can have enemies coming from both sides of the screen, whether you can get some of these really cool camera motions in while also making sure nobody's like getting nauseous or keeling over at their desk because of like sensory overload, right? It's really hard to like hit that balance. And I think that this is what ended up causing the most iteration, is just that we had to simplify the game to make it easier for people to see what was happening. We had to change the way some of the animations worked, the way some of the enemies looked, the way some of the notes worked. We had a lot of issues with some of our more complex note types, allowing people to kind of get the rhythm for those without just making it, really bland. And then, of course, when we want to put videos or cutscenes or whatever into the songs, there's a whole huge amount of storyboarding that needs to go into that to make sure that it feels good and that people can play through it and that it isn't pulling people out of the game. And then, of course, like if you want dialogue going, you have to figure out like how you can balance that with the rhythm gameplay so that people can actually read the dialogue. Yes, there's so much. Honestly, if we had made like any other genre of game, this would not be such an issue, but it is because, this game, it's all about entering that flow state, right? You can't be thinking about what you're doing.
Right, we're basically making the hardest kind of game to make.
We're
effectively making not only a very focused game feel dependent rhythm game, but we're making essentially an animated film too on top of that.
An animated film, a concept album,
it's all the hardest things. It's all the hardest things, and very, very hard to make game genre at the same time.
Yep, on top of a full like adventure kind of game structure too. It's
a lot. It's a lot, and you run into a lot of issues that nobody else would run into because nobody else is insane enough to try to put their story into the music bits.
Yeah, well, except us, and I think we all have the same kind of brain cells, so.
We all share one bloated brain cell.
Yeah.
So what made you guys go with a rhythm game for this game? Was it how it started or is how it ended up?
That's how it started.
It was how it started. The first thing that I sent all of the potential composers was just a tiny demo rhythm game.
What was the song?
It had a song and a little character who would jump around when you hit the buttons.
It was a song we definitely didn't own, I can tell you that much.
Yes, we definitely did not
remember what it was though.
It was a vocalist song.
It was yes. Was it first? I think it was first.
I think it was first. I forgot the artist name.
We're going into the archives right now.
Unbeatable lore unlocked.
I think it's worth noting while we're here, by the way, that that version of the game, like the code was built in such a way that literally you could only play that song, and if you tried adding another song / beat map, it wouldn't work. So that's great.
That was made in Game Maker also, right?
Yeah, that was a
Yeah.
Game Maker 1.4.
Yeah, it was made in Game Maker 1.4. Yeah, it was first. It was first, I think, covered by Cilia. Anyway, so it was made in Game Maker, and I think the first real version of Unbeatable was made in Game Maker, but we were pushing that engine to its limits, and then we broke it, and then we realized maybe we should stop trying to use Game Maker for this.
There was a point where we were like hitting the hard limit on what like the memory could hold in Game Maker's engine. Like it's like 4 gigs or something, right?
It was a very big game because we had all of these hand-drawn assets, but Game Maker does not have a good method of like saving out really large sprite sheets.
Right.
And like the game still looks really good. If you boot it up on a 4K display, it's like pixel perfect. Everything is amazing. But like you end up just running into a lot of issues when you're dealing with art assets that are that high resolution in a game engine that was not designed for this.
The latest version, the last build of that version of the game was like the load times were like quadrupled from like when we started like showing it to people, and like yeah, it was and the performance is really slow too.
Yeah, and this was also around the time like I put myself into my little hermit hole and did a full aesthetic redesign of the entire game, and right after I finished that aesthetic redesign, we swapped over to Unity. So honestly, like Unity has its pain points, but it definitely has been better for this game than Game Maker was.
So what inspired the character design and the aesthetic for the game overall?
That's honestly a difficult question.
I know we talked about Fooly Coolers. I talked about Fooly Cooly.
Yes.
You guys talked about Pop Idol.
Yeah, lots of Gynax and like Trigger works, I think, for the character design specifically. You know, I really wanted them to kind of feel pulled out of like in a Maishi sketchbook, so I did my best there. However, I think the aesthetic of the environment and just the world overall, because we were kind of going for that worn out like pirated VHS vibe. I took a lot of cues from the kind of worn, bleached aesthetic of anime like Haibane Renmei, of Die Buster, of those kinds of Fooly Cooly, those kind of late 90s, early 2000s cell animated shows, slightly aged, kind of white, like the backgrounds all have like a bleached white aesthetic. The skies are never blue. They're always white and kind of blooming into the rest of the background.
Lane is another big one.
Lane is a huge one.
I really hope the audience knows all these animes because I don't watch anime. You hit the one, Fooly Cooly. I know that. I know Gynax because they made a couple other shows. That's it for me. I'm out.
If you don't watch anime, I'm probably just speaking babble to you. But that there are some good shows in there that I have said. If you want to check them out.
Yeah, Haibane Renmei is especially really good.
It's really good.
So what are Arcade Mix and White Label?
So Arcade Mix was like the first demo we made, which was like available to everybody doing a Kickstarter. You know, it's just like hey, you know, we got this thing for you to play to see what the rhythm game plays like. Give us feedback on stuff as we're working towards White Label, right? So
and then White Label is our big, we're calling it an episodic side story, although it's big secret here. Don't tell Steam. It's a demo.
Because if we call it a demo, despite other games that have been called demos getting away with this in the past, Steam gets mad. They're like, hey, you can't have a demo that's its own page. You have to have a page for your main game and then release a demo underneath that.
Yes, which mind
Hmm.
you, this doesn't work for because it is a completely separate game from Unbeatable. But I digress.
It's a prequel.
It's
a side story.
It's a side story. We're calling it a side story. It's going to be episodic. We're going to be releasing the story in little chunks, and hopefully by the end, people will have a broad view of a few select characters that will show up in the final game. We don't really have a launch schedule for these episodes. We are working on them until they're done, and then we're releasing them.
So to make it short, Arcade Mix is a demo of White Label, which is a demo of our main game.
Yes.
Correct. Yes.
Correct.
It's like Russian nesting dolls of demos.
Yes.
Yes.
And
basically we were just like taking a bit of time to make White Label, so we were like, you know what, let's just release the rhythm only portion of the game as
we had that done. We were like, this is ready to go. We could show people this.
Because we've always been kind of, despite the fact that all of us are pretty into like story-rich games, we approached Unbeatable from the side of gameplay first. And so all of our gameplay systems are pretty much done. We just haven't implemented the story bits yet.
I wouldn't say they're done, but they're all sort of in place and connected together.
Yes,
mostly.
they're not done
we
per
still
se.
have work to do on them. Just
but
mostly in place.
they're further along and at a point where we could feasibly start putting in the actual story and the interlinked exploration sequences and stuff. I say done as like a relative term.
Yeah, they're like complete enough that we can start building on them.
Yeah. But yeah, the big stuff that we have to make, all of the story, we have the story written out, but it's like a matter of implementing it, of drawing all of the assets that we need, of getting all of that connected and together. And that was the thing that was taking the longest on White Label, because, again, most of the gameplay, playable, really fun. We sent that out so that people could kind of get an idea of how the game would play.
And the other big thing was just getting more songs ready for White Label release.
Yeah. I think we're at 11 songs now.
That was 12.
So it's 12 if you count the 2 noise crossover songs and the 3 remixes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So 12 songs, which for a free demo, I feel like is pretty decently sized, and we're gonna have a lot more.
We're gonna have more
songs. We wanted to sell a 6-song game for $5, so I think we've got a pretty good deal.
Honestly, once White Label is done, it will be probably larger than the game we were originally planning on.
I feel like it already is.
Yeah.
And it's free, so you should play it.
It's free,
You
so
haven't already
please,
done
yes.
that.
You really should. I probably played it 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, we've gotten a pretty good response on Steam already.
There's people that complain about not being able to give us money anymore.
Right, which we're trying to fix that.
We're gonna get a Slacker backer up soon.
Actually, no. By the time this is up, we will have a Slacker backer.
Yes,
you can go to it. In fact,
perfect.
There probably will be a link somewhere around. I'm guessing, knowing how like podcasts work, that. Yeah, somewhere's gonna be a link.
You'll see it.
It'll be wherever links are shown.
Wherever links are shown related to our social media.
Wherever the internet is.
Wherever the internet
It'll be on our Twitter bio and Google SEO.
If you don't have internet access, I can give you a 14-year-old copy of AOL Online.
Which one? Is it 6.0? I remember the ads for that one were really obnoxious.
What if I can't run AOL? Can you CompuServe? Is that good?
Yeah, that's fine.
So how many songs are you guys expecting to have in the final game?
I don't know if we can.
Many
there's
songs.
there's no hard number on this. It's however
Okay,
many
cool.
songs we need to have.
More
At
than
least-
six.
At least 2.
Thanks. I mean, like, if we're intending for the final game
To have a lot of songs,
Yeah,
it's
a
going to
lot
be
of-
sizable.
Here's what we can say.
Yeah.
So we have songs that will be for the main story, right? That will chronicle the events going throughout the story.
Right.
And then each of those songs will have an acoustic version because we met that Kickstarter goal. So
Yes,
that's already
acoustic
double that.
versions, remixes.
Yeah, and then RJ is going to be doing B-sides for all those songs
Yeah.
as well. So
Yes.
there's
Okay.
going to be a good amount of music.
That's awesome.
You will get your money's worth.
Right. In the process, the other
Again,
thing
this is like not including everything in white label already. Which, like, look, if you think white label song count's pretty good for its value, which is nothing.
Yeah,
$30
It is really good.
White labels song count. This is only for episode 1. We have 12 songs.
Yes.
It's like
it's gonna balloon.
yes.
The other thing is that, like, any song that we not scrap, but like say, okay, this isn't something that we think fits in a story context, we're going to keep those songs in the game as set list songs. So you can have, there's going to be a lot of music in the game, like at the end of the process of making it.
There will probably end up being more music than I think some other rhythm games. There is at least one rhythm game that we are expecting to cross past in terms of song count. We're going to have a decently sized array of music,
And that game is Parappa the Rapper.
And also because we got the beat map editor, technically we have an infinite number of songs because people will be able to
Yes.
use their own music.
I'm in charge of programming that, so that's coming
Sorry,
up.
Miriam.
already.
Good luck.
So be gentle.
Waiting for my 10-hour more shoot beatbox beat map for Unbeatable.
Yeah.
Somebody said they'd do
You know
it.
what?
Somebody in the community wanted to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody in the community wants to give me immense amounts of pain.
If someone FCs that, I mean, I'll give them
Because I said,
$1.
I don't know if you guys remember this, and if you guys don't remember this, I shouldn't be bringing this up again, but I will. On stream, I did promise that if anybody made a 10-hour Morshu beatbox map that was fully mapped out, all 10 hours with unique patterns throughout, that I would play the entire thing on stream.
God, that sounds awful.
I do remember that. Yes. Hopefully, no one holds you to that.
So how did music production go? How do you guys settle on a genre? How do you guys get everything recorded and all that? What's the process for that?
The songs kind of start from the story aspect of things. So the songs will correlate into the story, and the lyrics will correspond with what's going on screen, right? And so that starts from the overview from what RJ or Andrew gives me to work with. So like the most recent example is Waiting. That was actually, even though it's not shown yet, that song was specifically written for a specific story beat. And so we'll make music based on the events that are happening, and I'll have to like match things that are going on in the storyboard. So I'll have to match storyboards, and actually the storyboards will kind of revolve around the music too. And so I'll start with making kind of a rough demo of the song in Ableton Live, and then after that's done, I'll actually go out and record. I won't go out, I'll just stay here because everything is recorded in here in this room. Actually, it's this whole bedroom process, but all the drums are recorded live, all the guitars and bass and everything. Like I try and get everything as live as possible, because there's some aspect of live recordings that just feels the imperfections of it, honestly, just feel a little bit, they have a different kind of impact than, say, like a VST instrument where you're just programming in like drum beats or something. Like there's something that just makes the music pop a little bit more. And I think that's going back to what we were talking about earlier, is like that's something that we kind of slid into with the aesthetic of the game, is that live aspect just made the aesthetic of the game kind of go into the direction of 2000s rock. So Specifically, that's kind of how that process works.
Okay. And Rachel, how did you start singing for the game?
Well, RJ responded to Andrew and Jeff's post, and I wasn't at the time, but I'm married to him, so I've been doing vocal work for a while. I used to do like kind of like fan voice acting for stuff, and I used to do a lot of song covers, and my dad is a music producer, so I was introduced to that pretty young. So I've been doing it for a long time, and the team wanted a singer. So RJ was like, "Hey, well, I know one."
And you're
it
roped
works
in.
out. Yeah.
E3 is coming up. As of recording right now, E3 has already started for some people, but for you guys, it's still coming up. What's going to be like for you guys as a brand new team?
It's our first E3 season, y'all.
Woo-hoo.
It is our first E3 season where we are participating in E3. Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Gosh, it's been 3 years.
I don't know what I could tell my if I told my younger self something like this was going to happen, I'd probably like faint.
You would probably
I'd call myself a liar.
Yes.
Yeah, this is definitely like a childhood dream coming true.
Mm-hmm. It's exciting.
Yeah, I can't wait for us to all realize that E3 is stress and pain and terrible. But until that happens, I will be excited.
Shatter that illusion now.
Well, I mean, consuming E3 announcements is fun.
Yes.
Good balance. Have a good balance, and you'll be
Have a
just
good
fine.
balance, yeah. Look, we're just gonna watch all the little conferences together. And it'll be a fun time. It'll be surreal. It'll be surreal seeing us show up on those streams on Jeff Keighley's, Summer Game Fest. Like, what? I think the thing I had to take a double take on was I didn't know when Day of the Devs was going to happen. I knew it was going to be a part of the Game Fest, but I didn't know it was on the same day. And like it's a part of the same stream. So just like realizing that made me like quietly like freak out like in my room. Just like, wait, that's not happening. This isn't. This we don't know enough information. This isn't true. Like, but that's what's happening. We're gonna be up there on Thursday. Scary. And we also by now would be have shown in the Glitch Showcase too. So it was an awesome opportunity to be a part of both.
Yeah, we're all over the place this E3.
All over 2 places.
But it's exciting. Kind of nerve-wracking. Not sure what's going to happen. Definitely a little weird to be doing this during the pandemic. Part of me wishes that we could all go to the LA Convention Center together and like run into Hideo Kojima or something. Part of me is really happy that I get to sit at home and
So what comes next? You guys are fully funded, development's on the way. What's going on next at Diesel Games?
Making the thing.
Making a game, baby.
Yeah, we're gonna make a game.
We're actively making it as of right this second. We're speaking.
And then if everything goes well, we get to make more games.
Yeah. As of recording today, I think we have a patch coming out for White Label.
Should be up by the time this podcast is out. Yeah,
definitely should be up by the time this podcast is out.
There will probably be another patch past the patch that we're talking about by the time the podcast is out.
Yeah,
but they won't know which patch.
We're actively
check
developing
if there's a patch, and if there's a patch, download it. There you go. That's the message we're giving to the listeners. There may or may not be a patch, depending on when you listen to this podcast, that you have not downloaded yet.
Or last time you played the game.
I mean, maybe they're listening to this like 3 years from now when Unbeatable's already out.
There might be a patch for White Label. We don't know.
But
we can stretch the joke out further and make a comment about us having like coins that dictate revenue share. If you really want to go down this route.
I'm groaning
Everybody
right now.
is in immense pain right now.
Oh my god.
Well, on that note, I want to thank you guys for being on the show. You guys are fantastic. If you are a fan of 90s anime aesthetic or early 2000s anime aesthetic, fantastic music.
If you recognized any of the anime that I said Good for you. Thank you.
You guys can catch wow, I almost messed the name up. You ruined it. You can catch Unbeatable on the website, unbeatable.com. The game comes out in 2023, but you will find a Slacker backer event soon, apparently after this episode airs, but we'll see how that goes. You can play the demo episodic side story White Label, which is currently free on Steam and on itch and maybe GOG. I don't remember anymore. It's in a lot of places. Go check it out.
We are only on 2 places. Just to
sorry, never mind. Scratch that part.
We're not on GOG.
Future Jeff, ignore that part.
Yep. Thanks for having us. It's been great.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this was super fun. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope everybody listening plays White Label and enjoys it.
They better. I'll break your
Thank you for
kneecaps.
playing.
Thank you so much for
Thank
playing.
you.
My game.
And if you don't, please leave a negative review on Steam.
Please don't do that.
No, dude, ignore that. Cut that.
No,
Cut
don't
the
cut
bit
that.
about-
Leave that in.
Cut the bit about giving us a negative review. We can't have more of those.
Am I getting fired now?
Yes. Oh my god.
No.
The Chasing XP podcast is brought to you by ChasingXP.com. This episode was hosted, edited, produced by me, Jeff Nabors. You can find me on Twitter at _RKDNC, as well as Twitch. If you like what you heard today, please visit our website, ChasingXP.com. We've got articles, reviews, editorials, all kinds of fun stuff.